Thank you, Shaz. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. Should be a very exciting panel because, as you can see, I'm a foreigner as well, so I'm really looking forward to hearing everyone's answers. But yeah, Malaysia is a great place, and thank you for the introduction, so we'll get straight into it. I'm going to do it a little bit differently today. I've got special questions for specific people, but if you do have anything to add, feel free to ask for the microphone. Let's start with, what are some common misconceptions that people have when it comes to Malaysia? We'll go from my left. Yeah, the mic. Just so I can interrupt.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Misconception about Malaysia. Maybe I can share a fact from the digital nomad community. They see Malaysia as an underrated location for digital nomads. Despite us having everything under the sun, high quality of life, affordable living, good internet speed, and many support services.
Cheap food, yeah?
Cheap food, wonderful food. We are still an underrated location for digital nomads.
Good afternoon, everyone. So maybe let me just share from an investment lending perspective. I think one of the biggest misconceptions to land in Malaysia is whether our processes are, I would say the word, okay, now in quotes, pita, pita, pain in the ass, all of this, right? So I think this is something that hopefully today in the panel, we can really dive into that because there are already processes in place. It's how are we aware about those points and how can we fully leverage on it? That's a bit about it.
So misperceptions, so people may not, I think instead of misperception, I would say that they may not aware that we are very progressive about digital economy. So not only about the good work MDEC is doing to bring in foreign investors, but our regulators are also very progressive in facilitating new business models in the financial sector. So as come from Securities Commission, we look at capital markets. So we are progressively understanding what are the business models that we be able to facilitate. So we have very comprehensive framework for equity crowdfunding, for example, alternative financing, digital investment management of robo-advisor. Up to today, we talk about digital assets and Web3. So I think this is also something a lot of people are not aware of, and I hope to share more later today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm actually looking at the perspective of doing business in Malaysia. I think on what Chyi is sharing, we have a very comprehensive regulator framework. So a lot of things that you will find that, those business license applications, the processes are in place, and we have a good credibility in the world, about the CG, the corporate governance, okay? And I think moreover, besides what Arya was saying, good things about Malaysia, but not forgetting the talents in Malaysia as well. So most of us are, well educated. Most of us can speak more than one language. English is not an issue. If you are from mainland China, most of us can speak Mandarin as well. So communications, talents, no issue at all.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Thanks for the applause. Definitely, I mean, you've covered a lot of the stuff that we were talking about, and half the reason I came here is everyone speaks English, so much easier to kind of settle in and move around. I guess this is a Web3 week and the conference, so let's ask a little bit, what do you think is an advantage for Web3 companies to have a presence in Malaysia? Danesh and Chyi, I think this is more relevant to you guys, but everyone's welcome to answer.
Okay, maybe I start first, right? Then maybe Chyi can dive and the rest can jive in. I think, first of all, number one, right, as I've shared earlier today morning, right, there's a huge push from the government all the way at the Prime Minister's level to attract investments into Malaysia. So I think that is very, very important to understand. Secondly, 3 years ago, the Malaysian government has already signed multilateral free trade agreements, which is very critical, and what you're seeing now is the results of that. As you're aware, there's all kinds of crises already happening across the globe, chip crises, trade crises, global skirmishes, what is happening in the Middle East, and many others that will take place or possibly take place where companies are now, enterprises are de-risking, right? And given that we have already signed these FTAs, this makes us be practically the word Swiss of the East, in some essence, right, with regards to that. Second point I want to share is with regards to the government support. We have the Malaysia Digital Initiative. It is holistic. It covers the visas, nomad visa including. It also covers incentives such as tax breaks and also grants and etc. to support blockchain and Web3 companies to land in Malaysia. Third thing, I won't go too deep. We have a very robust regulatory landscape, which Chyi will share later on, that will support those types of businesses moving forward. Fourth, in regards to talent development, right, we already have, in terms of talent, close to 800 plus members in blockchain clubs across Malaysia, right? These are new gen talent who are already looking at blockchain technologies that the industry needs to leverage upon. When we talk about existing talent, the biggest developer fraternity currently in Malaysia is Developer Kaki, which has close to 46,000 members who are part of it, which can cater towards the community. So that is with regards to talent, right? And then when we talk about infrastructure, if that is something of critical importance, Malaysia is already number 3 in terms as a data center location for the globe currently. That is very critical because data availability is already here. You already also heard about the GPUs. NVIDIA GPUs H200s are coming to Malaysia end of this year. This will make us also a place for GPU compute power in this part of the world, which is very critical from infrastructure perspective. And lastly, of course, is about our 5G connectivity. We are already at 97.3%, and this is very critical for us to drive the digital economy moving forward on top of all the other areas and projects. We really hope that this is the right time for us to really position Malaysia to bring in more from this industry.
Just to double check, the microphone is okay on Danesh. Everyone can hear okay? Okay.
Okay, I think Danesh has covered quite comprehensively, but I only have 3 more points to add. So the first point, I think he mentioned about regulatory. So I think maybe many of you may not aware that Malaysia is among one of the earliest jurisdiction that scope in digital assets as securities. So that provide a lot of regulatory clarity for players who want to do business surrounding digital assets in a regulated way. So that also could also enable people understand what they need to do if they want to set up such businesses here. And second point is when we talk about blockchain Web3, for me, I think the important thing is how you use the underlying technology to add value to the economy. So how to use the technology, for example, to improve efficiency in financial markets or in different types of sector. So a good point about Malaysia is it is a diversified economy. You have agricultural sector, manufacturing, up to services, which also entail digital economy. So I think Web3 and blockchain can have a lot of use cases in all different sectors, and that's why Web3 players, blockchain players can explore how to utilize your technology to move Malaysia's various economic sectors to the next level. Another interesting thing point also back to the lack of awareness thing is Malaysia is one of the few jurisdictions that have something called regulated way to do token fundraising. So this is part of our funding escalator. We try to understand what are the funding needs of different types of MSMEs or smaller companies or startup companies. So fundraising, we have, I think many of you heard about equity fundraising, venture capital fundraising, but token fundraising is something Web3 companies looking for example, issuance of utility tokens or security tokens for fundraising. So we have 2 regulated IEO platforms that we regulate. They will be able to help issuers or companies to fundraise to tokens issuance. So this is something also very unique in Malaysia and also very supportive for the Web3 ecosystem.
Definitely, and I think we're going to hear from one of those companies later today as well, so looking forward to that. I think something that Danesh missed and I'd like to add on is just the accessibility to people like Danesh. I mean, we met at an off-chain meetup. It's, you know, senior government guys coming to an off-chain meetup and you get things happening. So it's really the accessibility and how ease of kind of communication it is with some of these guys. Arifah, I guess, do you want to take it from a digital nomad? How would that support Web3 and those kind of infrastructure?
Okay, so existingly in our Dirantau Nomad community, they are blockchain experts already on the Nomad visa staying here in Malaysia. So when you are part of the Dirantau community, you are accessible to other MDEC programs like now and also from other programs organized by our ecosystem service providers like Work or Common Ground. And I think we will have AWS coming in soon to provide, to allow our members to actually participate in any of their community programs. Amongst the Dirantau community as well, there are already leaders, community leaders in the group. So they are also bridging the communication between MDEC and the community as well. So there are many opportunities to do so. And of course, I think following from the point that was made earlier about application of blockchain in other sectors, right? So myself, I am leading digital tourism department. So I'm actually on the lookout for blockchain application for tourism and travel tech space. We run a tourism innovation lab this year, and our cohort 3 is starting in October. So if any of you have any new products that you want to test out or pilot and be part of our accelerator program, do sign up and say hello to me after this.
I mean, that's a pretty good offer, I would say. But I guess, Arifah, while we're in the process of talking about nomads, what is the requirements? How do I get started? You know, basically, give us a 2-minute pitch on it so we don't spend too much.
Okay, main thing is, first and foremost, you need to be a remote worker or digital freelancer. For tech professionals, minimum income requirement is $24,000 a year. For non-tech professionals, for example, the CEOs, COOs, marketing, business development, growth manager, etc., including legal, accounts, finance people, HR inclusive, minimum annual income is at $60,000. You also need to have employment contract or service contract valid for more than 3 months, because that employment contract or service contract period determines how long you can stay in Malaysia, actually. The maximum number of months that you can stay in Malaysia is 12 months, and you can renew for another year, so it's 24 months maximum. You also need to provide a bank statement so that we can actually validate that you are being paid for the work that you do. One more thing that is critical, especially in the blockchain community, if you submit your payslip and you're telling us that you are earning in cryptocurrency, that is not accepted. It will be rejected. Your application will be rejected. But if you come back and you say that your income is now in fiat, then we will be accepting that as such. So that one is okay.
So that's a 3-month history, right? Or
it's
for the
3
bank
months
statement?
history. Yes, 3 months history.
Just
And
double checking if we need to
yeah.
convert USDT.
yes, so 3-month history. So our processing time can go between 6 to 8 weeks. So it depends on the completion of your documentation.
Yep. And 3 months of those is a tourist visa, or we cannot apply in Malaysia?
You can apply if you are in Malaysia. You can apply. You can apply anywhere from anywhere in the world. But if you are in Malaysia at the time that is being approved, and you are in Malaysia on tourist visa, you need to exit Malaysia first and come back in. Yeah.
Cool. I think, yeah. Do you guys want to add anything on a nomad visa? Yeah, definitely the expert. I guess let's kind of change the dial a little bit and talk more about regulation, since we have, Securities Commission here. What do you consider the current regulatory landscape for blockchain or Web3? Is it how complicated? What's involved? What do I need a license, basically?
About complicated, I would say it's not complicated, because I think like earlier on I talked about we are scoping in digital assets, including crypto assets, as securities, and we regulate them as activities that they are in capital market. So in capital market, you have a few key activities, right? Fundraising, trading, and provide custody services. So same risk, same activity, same regulatory approach. So we have been regulating trading activities in our bursa. We have been regulating fundraising activities on our alternative platforms. So we are applying similar principles into digital asset activities. And that's why don't think that we are trading as different animal. And because we understand how market integrity work, how investor protection work. So those regulations are in place to ensure the market is fair and in order, and for us to protect the investors. And also another thing also very make things less complicated is because we scope in digital asset as securities, so we also allow our existing intermediaries to deal with it. I think this morning you have a panel talk about FM or fund managers launching digital asset fund, because this is something that we also already have regulated fund offering fund to investors. So digital asset as underlying asset class can also be part of the offering of the fund to our investors, and hence I would say our regulation is very principle based and also comprehensive because of the principle that we apply similar to other asset class.
I guess a follow-up question: how do you kind of facilitate innovation if if you've got a fixed principle? Because Web3 is a little bit different to the traditional world.
That's a very good point. So we work closely. I think just now you mentioned a point that Danesh go to your event. In fact, Malaysia, people like to say Malaysia is a kampong. Kampong means like a village. Yeah, so we do have that kampong spirit, in a professional way. So our players who want to offer some services that is not in current guideline, they can always write in to us and talk to us. So in a more formal way, let's say new players, when they look at our framework, they think that activities that they're offering are not covered in our framework, but they have new innovative services that can add value to the capital market using blockchain technology. We have a program called Affinity that can write in. So we have dedicated officer that responds to those emails, and also for those who submit a proper business plan where we think we can further discussion with them, we arrange meeting to discuss with them. And we also have done a few policy changes to accommodate those new business plans, including, for example, our robo-advisory framework mostly come from those engagement that we have with new players. So that's why if you have any new business ideas from Web3 that you think can add value to capital market activities, feel free to come to talk to us.
Okay, so it's really not unusual to start off as a query and then sell to the government.
It's not selling, we are more like, how to say, for us to understand what are the innovation on the ground, and then for us to understand but we also assess their value proposition to capital markets. So we may not be able to facilitate everything under the sun, but we'll ask questions. And also they need to be able to answer us like what are the plus that they offer, and what are the new risks that you introduce, and how you mitigate those risks. So we will ask them, they think that we ask them a lot of questions, but in fact the whole process will help them to understand what we think and help us understand them better.
Sounds good. The reverse of what Singapore does. Celine, we haven't really heard from you in a while, so let's get some business and how to develop. What would, I guess, in your experience, what was the typical timeline for a tech company to incorporate, to establish their business, and then to operate in Malaysia?
Right. Thank you. I think most of you would like to hear the timeline is 3 to 5 days, right? I think as shorter as possible, right? Yeah, this is probably you will get from most of the service provider telling you that. But let's understand the process. I think the important to understand how we do the incorporation in Malaysia. So VISTRA, being the international expansion specialist across 52 markets, I can tell you most of the time when the client come to us is basically 4 main things, right, to do a business in a country. Number one, they want to incorporate a company, and they want to find out what are the infrastructures that are available. Then what are the incentives, what are the talents, right? But a lot of time they have forgotten about to incorporate a company is a very beginning stage and yet very important stage. It's not a basic thing. So let me walk you through the process. So importantly, as a service provider, we need to understand your business model, right? Why you want to do business in Malaysia. So as a service provider, we want to understand, your plan, your business model, how you want to grow in the country. And it's also part of our KYC process. KYC is like a due diligence process. So we are the company secretary in Malaysia. We are the largest So we are also under the regulated of Bank Negara, the central bank's monitoring as well. So we are the reporting agency. So part of our questionnaire to the business is also to find out your business needs and also your business model. So from there, we will walk you through with the process. We'll ask you for a lot of documents. So bear with us, because if you go through the KYC with the service provider, I can assure you when you come to the bank account opening, you will find it very easy, because the bank is going through the same way of the KYC as what we are doing with the client as well. So if you come to a service provider to tell that, let me help you incorporate the company. And after incorporation, the rest of the things that you have to handle it yourself, please watch out, because a lot of time you will get stuck. That's why I've been getting a lot of cases coming to me asking how to open a bank account, how do I get a work permit, how do I do this and do that. But the company already incorporated, and we got stuck there. And frankly speaking, it's very hard for me to help in between. It's because I never handle your KYC at all. I do not know what exactly the things is inadequate, right? So important for everybody to take note here is to understand the process. Don't rush to open a company, because whatever we ask you to submit, these are the important facts that, to report back to the bank, to the regulators, that these are the rigid business. Okay, so typical timeline, back to the questions. Although I want to say 3 to 5 days, but I will say in between 2 to 4 weeks, depending how adequate you can provide the documentation. All right, so it's come back to the client again. If you could provide us timely information that we needed, we definitely want to help you to incorporate the company ASAP. Okay, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah,
Thanks.
definitely. I mean, let's stick to 5 days, I guess. Just a follow-up question on that. What would be an extra challenge for, let's say, a tech company if we ignore the KYC aspects and some of the processes that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think the challenges not just for tech company, it's basically for all the businesses that wanted to come to Malaysia. There are a few things that you need to take note. Number one, come with your business plan. It's very important, right? If you have some track records doing business in other countries, that would be fantastic, all right? And if you are starting a company, fresh, startup, that's where we might need you to explain more of, your investment and also the business plan. So business plan is very important. Like I mentioned just now, KYC, very important. Make sure the documentation are always with you. All right, and one thing that I want to bring attention to everybody, if you have some companies with offshores, like, Cayman Islands, Barbados, all these places, the KYC will have to trace to the ultimate beneficiary owner, UBO, all right? It's not my call, it's in the framework, so you will be asked by the banker as well if you open the bank account. So from what I understand, the bank will trace up to 3 layers. So after 3 layers, if they still couldn't find the natural person, ultimate beneficial owner, they will continue to track. Okay, so I'm sharing some tips over here so that you get yourself prepared. Thanks.
So I might have another question at the end if we've got time, but we'll come back to my side of the panel. I guess this is for everyone, but more Danesh and Arifah, because you're more hands-on with the client. How would someone reach you both before they try to come to Malaysia and then afterwards? Is there some kind of account management, or how do I stay in touch, basically?
Okay, I think this is very important, right, for the whole life cycle, right? Particularly, what I can share from MDEC's perspective, right? We already have a business development team to support the investment attraction capabilities. And those team members are here today from the blockchain and Web3 side, if Celine and Ryan are in the crowd. So they will work with the client to see how best for them to land in Malaysia, and whether that will depend on any other supporting services that we can leverage upon, both government and private, to support that particular initiative. Once the company has already land here, right, and they have incorporated, they've gotten the so-called status, MD status and etc., we also have a post-support team. So within MDEC, we have already established layers of support for particular accounts. So we have a premium account management unit, we have a key account management unit, and we also have the general customer support, right? So all of these layers have already been established this year to enable us to hopefully support robustly the digital economy ecosystem. So if there is a nomad matter that needs to be addressed, then of course one of these layers will be connecting to, example, Arifah's team and etc. internally to support that particular matter, for example, and all of this. Hopefully I answered with regards to that.
Definitely. I guess my question is more after I've established myself, let's say I need an introduction for verifying KYC, right? My current clients currently need verified KYC. Is there like a preferred vendor list or a partner list that can be shared or introduced? Because these things, as a business, you want to save as much time as possible. So if you've already done the vetting and you're happy with these clients, it just saves all of us a lot of time.
So let me share about a particular preferred vendor list, right? We get often from investors, okay, can you tell me who is your preferred Big Four? Example, right? Or can you tell me who's your preferred real estate agent? Can you tell me who's your preferred onboarding partner to incorporate a company and etc.? MDEC has no particular party to introduce. We will share with you a list of parties that you can engage. If it's up to you to engage, because we don't want to be biased to any other parties. Of course, there are discussions now currently with the volume that is coming in to whether to create a robust partner program, but that is going to come later and all of this. But as of this moment, if you do reach out to either teams, the inbound teams or the existing teams, there will be parties that they will will provide and share. It's up to the parties to engage on proceed based on that.
Of course, always do your own research, guys. That's what I'm hearing. Arifah, is there any difference on a nomad visa or?
Okay, maybe I can share a success story of
Yeah,
a
please,
digital
please.
nomad who are on the Rantau Nomad Pass. He is a Pakistani. He is a remote worker for an IT company based in the US. So he worked remotely in Malaysia on the Rantau Nomad Pass, spoke to his boss and say, hey, Malaysia is a great place. Let's open a branch in Malaysia. So he managed to set up a Malaysian company with the assistance from Danesh's team. So he actually reached out to my team, and then his account manager actually helped to set up the company. And at the same time, the new company applied for a Malaysia digital status. So when you apply for Malaysia digital status, aside from the tax incentive, you are also given a quota for foreign knowledge workers. So right now, this digital nomad, he is on his second year of his nomad visa, and by next year, he will be under the employment pass and he can stay longer in Malaysia for up to 5 years now.
Wow.
So that's the ideal,
Yeah,
the ideal path and journey of a digital nomad that we want, and I hope that's also what you all want
yeah.
as well.
I mean, 2 years is a good probation before you open up a
Yes.
company, so why not?
Yeah.
I guess just to finish off things and my questions, what's one piece of advice you'd give to the founders, the builders, the VCs, and the nomads in the room if they want to establish themselves in Malaysia? It could be anything; it doesn't have to be corporate related. It could be branding and entity and anything. So yeah, you want to start with Arifah while we're here?
Okay, maybe because we've been doing this digital nomad program for almost 2 years, right? We receive plenty of complaints about the number of paperwork that needs to be submitted to apply for a nomad visa, right? But that is what is required by our country, and it is not just MDEC alone that's approving the nomad visa. It is together with our Home Affairs Ministry and the Immigration Department, so they are in the committee when doing the approval. So it is as good as you applying for an employment permit. So you do need to provide the paperwork. Don't be scared of the process and trust the process. And if it gets rejected or it is being stalled, reach out. Somebody will come back to you for sure.
Okay. Communication is always good advice.
I think last parting words, I think we've been looking at this industry particularly for the last 3 years. To be honest with you, at the start when we were looking at it, it was not so rosy, I would say, right? But to be honest, middle last year, we've seen a lot of traction started to happen, right? Especially the blockchain and Web3. And in fact, the testament of this is actually the events that is happening today and tomorrow with the My Blockchain Week and etc. Happening. So I think this is really what I want to share is this is really the best moment for Malaysia for Web3 and blockchain. We really hope that all of you capitalize this in Malaysia for this week and fully connect with the ecosystem and all parties that you can to hopefully drive your businesses moving forward. That's what I want to share in closing it.
Thank you, Danesh.
Hi, I would like to echo the last part that Danesh mentioned earlier about connecting with the ecosystem. Because I think Malaysia, it is not too big as a country, but bigger than Singapore. And also we do have our, very close-knit community, and also many different diverse community as well when it comes to digital economy. So even I think I already lost count how many blockchain associations community that we have, and also I think blockchain OffChain is among one of the very well established one, for example. So I think that's why I think before you come here, you want to learn more. I think one good testament is get to this community and learn about their experiences, build connection, because I think when you come to Web3 or digital economy, important thing is collaboration. So there are some agencies that support you, but importantly, talk to your peers, talk to people who are already here, then you know their experience and decide your game plan in this country.
Thank you. I didn't even tell you to talk about OffChain, but thanks.
My piece of advice is that find the right partner. Find the right partner that can help you to incorporate the company and that provide a full-fledged of services from the incorporation until support you to do the business in Malaysia. And on top of that, also look at the credibility and also the track record of the service provider. Like beside Malaysia, is a service provider also doing the incorporation for other countries as well. Because we are doing a global business here, right? Nobody is just stop you for just incorporating in Malaysia. I'm sure that you are eyeing, to the world, to the ASEAN, to many part of the market. So get a reliable service provider is very important. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Celine. That's really all the questions I had, and unfortunately we're running out of time as well. So I just want to close up. Again, thank you everyone for coming to join this panel. I hope everyone learned and got what they need. The speakers will all be outside if you'd like to get a little bit more information and ask them more detailed questions.